Hello, my name is Steve Sonka. I'm an emeritus professor of agricultural strategy from the University of Illinois in the United States. Currently, I serve as research fellow at the Ed Snyder Center for Enterprise and Markets at the University of Maryland. My colleague, Michael Pope, has provided important leadership to the project that we'll be discussing today. Mike is a senior consultant at the Centrec Consulting Group in Savoy, Illinois. As is the case for all of us doing these 10 minutes videos, I'm going to apologize up front for moving through some things fairly rapidly, but we have to. I'm going to have a brief introduction, a brief description of the approach. The results, we have a number of empirical results. Again, I apologize because we're going to go through these very rapidly, but hopefully in the conclusion, I can draw out the important implications of this work. So post-harvest loss is a problem that I presume most of us looking at this video think is very important. I think it's also important we recognize and evaluate how to incorporate food system perspectives in the work that we do. Indeed, the work that I'll be talking about right now has a post-harvest loss focus, but it also impacts community resilience, food availability and security, nutrition, and economic development. Post-harvest loss actually is a long time, widely recognized problem. Sometimes we don't like to recognize that, but that is the reality. In 1972, in the first United Nations Conference on Food Security, the General Assembly of the UN passed a resolution that post-harvest loss should be reduced by 50% over the next 10 years from 1972. Words we kind of hear a lot, 50%, 10 years. But I also just, as a curiosity, I Googled the phrase, 50% of food is wasted. In 0.6 seconds, Google returned 11,100,000 hits. So there is some awareness of post-harvest loss, and it's been there for a while. But what I think we need more of is decision-oriented tools that help us manage post-harvest loss, plan, evaluate, adapt, and implement change in our actions. The WRI has advanced recently in a useful approach that focuses on measure, target, and act. And as a general level, that's useful and helpful. But then the question is, what actions do we take? Yes, we want actions to reduce post-harvest loss, but how do we focus on those actions which will help us most effectively achieve post-harvest loss? And our work hopefully illustrates such a decision-oriented approach. We have developed a decision support tool with decision maker input, and our focus is smallholder maize farmers in Tanzania. Aringa Hope Cooperative, which is in central Tanzania, and its leadership has been very helpful to us in this. The cooperative delivers financing, marketing, and training to smallholder farmers in their region. There are 3,200 members, and post-harvest loss reduction is part of Aringa Hope's broader agricultural and social goals. Our tool that we developed is an Excel-based modeling tool. We have received inputs, and we greatly appreciate the work of the Aringa Hope leadership team in helping us bring the model to life, if you will, through real data, real information that they live with. I want to emphasize, however, the data is designed to be typical of a smallholder maize farmers in the Aringa region of Tanzania. These are not Aringa Hope cooperatives operating results. They're not intended to be, and they should not be interpreted in that fashion. We're going to look through a number of scenarios. I want to emphasize these are what I'm going to call boundary scenarios. For example, in the typical base case situation, smallholder farmers use a limited amount of relatively low productivity inputs. Because of the traditional storage methods, which have a high loss, much of the crop is sold at harvest, and purchase then of grain is for home consumption is purchased later during the year. We are going to model that in the context of all the grain being sold at harvest and all of the grain needed for home consumption being purchased. These are what I would call boundary scenarios. They present edges from which we can do comparisons. So let's look at some results, and these results are presented in US dollars. The model, of course, works in Tanzanian shillings, but I thought dollars would be more widely recognized. Getting down to the bottom of the chart, there's a positive net cash flow in the traditional production method. However, that positive cash flow, in this case of $68 from maize, is overwhelmed by the need to purchase grain for home consumption. Important to recognize that this is just a very inadequate way to measure the reality of insufficient grain for home consumption. In reality, hunger is probably the result. It's not a simple number with dollars on it or Tanzanian shillings on it. It is real hunger expressed as the hunger month in much of the literature on development. We look now at what if we improve storage capabilities through the use of hermetic storage bags. That means that the grain in this boundary scenario is going to be stored for human consumption. It's going to be stored in the household. There's no need for grain to be purchased. Excess grain will be sold at harvest. What this means actually is, of course, there's less sold at harvest. Expenses actually go up a little bit relative to the base case because we're going to buy storage bags, and the net cash flow from production is lower. However, the improved storage reduces our need for purchases of grain for human consumption. The family net cash position, although small, is greatly improved relative to the baseline scenario. Oringa Hope Cooperative has been working for several years to improve the agronomic capabilities of its members. Better quality inputs, greater quantity of inputs, and extensive training has resulted in impressive agronomic improvement. But again, with traditional high-loss storage methods, we're going to model the sale of the entire crop at harvest and purchasing grain for home consumption. We see much higher revenues, higher expenses, and a significant improvement in net cash flow from production. However, there is still the need to purchase grain for home consumption. The net cash position becomes very small. That net cash position, however, though, is much improved over the baseline scenario. It is just that the loss from storage is quite significant. So now we're going to look at combining improved agronomic capabilities and improved storage capabilities with a third leg of this stool, if you will. That is a program that Oringa Hope offers its members where excess grain can be stored in the cooperative, in buildings within the cooperative at their local offices. The farmer at the time of harvest, when they bring the grain, receives 60% of the value. That 60% of the value then provides cash flow, can be used for purchasing inputs, for family needs. That loan, of course, needs to be repaid when the grain is sold. We can see that from both receipts and expenditures increase significantly. Sales are higher because grain is sold later in the year, not all at harvest when prices are very low. Expenses do increase. With effective home storage, purchased grain is minimized and overall net cash flow is much improved. Okay, to conclude, the goal of this presentation has been to demonstrate a decision-oriented approach to post-harvest management. Again, these results, the actual numbers are meant to be illustrative. They are based on experts with experience, giving us their best understanding of both the typical case and how situations have changed and will change with a coordinated approach to improving economic development, resiliency in the community. Much further work, of course, is needed. Price variability, better quantify hunger. We have work being done on regional and cooperative level analysis. I want to acknowledge the financial support for part of the work was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Foundation for Food and Agriculture. And I wanted to acknowledge Oringa Hope leaders, as well as our colleagues at Centrect, the Ed Snyder Center, and the Consortium for Innovation in Post-Harvest Loss and Food Waste Reduction. Thank you.